Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. He's Adam Lavin. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. You can follow Adam at Moving to the Main Line on Instagram. He's the kind of guy you want to talk to if you're thinking about a real estate decision this year. And we're going to be talking about mortgage rates fell. They jumped back up. We saw some rate drop news there. Record price cuts are being recorded by Zillow. And Logan Motoshami from Housing Wire is breaking down the anticipation and the data points that you want to follow in the month of December. We also got some Michelin star winners finally and a bunch of other awards we're going to talk about locally throughout the greater Philadelphia area and a couple new listings hitting the market. So if you get some value out of this or you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team, and Adam specifically, you can do that with the link in the comments. So, Adam, rates dropped on Black Friday.
Yes, they did.
Then they bounced back up. What are you seeing in the market right now with this rate volatility? We were talking about this. We've been talking about this, I feel like, for months, but the entire fourth quarter, but especially now as we're in this like home stretch of 2025.
I think it's a combination of things. One, I would say, I think us in the real estate industry are probably more focused on it than the general public at this point. 2021 into 22, people were very cognizant of it because we saw record low rates. Mm-hmm. And then we also saw them rebound in the opposite direction. And then last year, in August, when the Fed did the first rate cut in forever, it was finally news again. At this point, I think people are more focused on, can I find the right house? How much is the house going to cost overall? And what does my monthly payment look like? Because the rate, even though it's moving incrementally, it doesn't tell the whole story of what their financial goals and picture look like.
What you just said there is the sign of a normalizing market. Mm-hmm. What can I afford? What's the house going to look like? How's this going to work for me? And if your agent is focusing on that for the consumers that are listening, that's the kind of person that you want, because we can't control the rate. You mentioned the Fed, and what's interesting is after the press conference, when they met back in October, the probability of a rate cut dropped down significantly. It was like 65%, mm-hmm. according to CME Group, and Polymarket was right there. Today, it's an 89.2% chance we see a 25 basis point rate cut. So it looks like, despite Jerome Powell's best efforts to scare people, I take the market every time. I don't know about you. I mean, I think the market's a lot smarter than him. So maybe there's some anticipation of this rate cut that caused rates to come down.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. The one thing that we know historically over the last couple of years is the reaction to the rate cut is kind of already pre-priced in the mortgage industry. So I think with the general consumer out there or unaware agent, if they're looking for this rate cut to come in December, if and when it does, and then for a reaction afterwards, you're going to be waiting for a long time, because what we're seeing right now is that prediction already priced in.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. And what this also shows you, because you look at Mortgage News Daily, and they do a good job charting the rates. You can't really time the market. You said, does the house work? Does the payment work? I mean, if you were trying to time the market, you'd be out there Black Friday trying to buy something. There wasn't a lot of inventory out there then. I mean, that's just a historic day where, homes were, I think we sold 3 homes that day. But it's those are the people that are really motivated. They've been looking for a while. They're kind of at the very end of their journey. So you got to be careful this time of year trying to time things. And what they talked about on Housing Wire, and this is nationally, the key data lines to track for the rest of the year to see where the market's going. Because even though December is historically pretty slow, it gives us a good idea what to expect in 2022. And the first data piece of data you want to look at is is where, what happens with the 10-year, right? Not necessarily mortgage rates. So we're seeing the 10-year, it kind of dropped back down again. I think this is the reason why a lot of people are saying we might see 5.9% by the end of next year. What do you say to folks that are waiting for this magical rate cut to happen? Because I think we can both agree it's not happening. Mortgage rates dropping, that is, not anything by the Fed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, like we just talked about, most of always the mortgage move happens before anything else moves, and they're predictive towards what's happening with the yield, and then also just as importantly the unemployment numbers. We've already seen the unemployment numbers adjusted, and we kind of know what those look like now. I think they're real numbers.
As real as you're going to get from the federal government.
Yeah, and I mean, and we kind of know what's going to happen with the rate going forward. Now, whoever gets assigned to this new position as we move into 2026, who knows? But that's kind of like going back to, we just went through a crazy election that was somewhat historic. And the way I look at it is, back then I told people, like, listen, half the country's going to be happy, half the country's not going to be happy. At the end of the day, everybody that needs to buy a house or sell a house is going to do so. And this kind of goes along the same way. I mean, we could sit here, look at all the data historically, what might happen going forward. We have a lot of reason to believe, based on where the yield's at right now, that we're, probably going to be slightly lower in interest rates, but not a significant amount where it's going to change anything. And locally, based on supply and demand, what we do know is that home values are probably going to go up. So again, it really just goes back to stop trying to predict anything. Who knows what's going to happen? And more than anything, focus on what your goals are. And if you need to buy a house, work with a great agent that's going to guide you, or mortgage lender that's going to guide you to make the best financial decision for yourself, so that you don't have buyer's remorse.
Yeah, and I mean, so you don't have buyer's remorse is such a key component there, because there's a lot of agents. I mean, you can like smell the commission coming off their breath, versus folks like, I know you do this, and a lot of people we know do this. Hey, don't buy this home. Here's the problems with it. Here's the stuff you should avoid. So that's what you need to be careful of when you're talking to agents. And there are signs. I mean, I'm clear the market is going to be trending a little more buyer friendly next year. The second data point I saw that Logan Motoshami points out is the spread between mortgage rates and the 10-year Treasury security. So to give some perspective, in 2023, the spread is where the 10 years coming in versus where mortgage rates are coming in. Historically, it's been typically like 1.6 to 1.8%. What we saw in 2023 was closer to 3%. So far in 2025, we're at 2.19% right now. That's improved since 24 and 23, when rates were higher. So that's good news. That shows me, again, the market's normalizing. And then you talked about price appreciation. Besides some of these hot spots that in COVID, like Austin or parts of Florida, you can expect 3 to 5% appreciation easily year over year. So if you're waiting for the market to turn in your favor as a buyer, I can tell you prices are going to be going up, especially in the greater Philadelphia area. I mean, there's no signs of softness here when it comes to demand. So it's getting clear on what you want, then out there and go and try to find it. And I think that's probably the most important thing when you're looking at real estate agents of the process, is how are you going to find the right home? I mean, that's usually what drives it, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And within finding the right house, looking at what your monthly payment's going to look like is important. There's things that contribute to the monthly payment other than the interest rate. Primarily, one of those around us is local taxes. Past that, the cost of owning the house over the following 8 to 10 years, which is typically the turnaround time where people own the home and then decide to move on. Some people live there longer, some people live there shorter, but hey, what is this house going to cost me over the next 10 years? Is the roof good? Is the HVAC system good? What's the foundation look like? What am I going to put into the house to make it mine? Is it there yet? Like, there are other contributing factors to purchasing the home and looking at your overall financial picture than just focusing on trying to time an interest rate drop.
Well said. I mean, because you buy a home, let's say it's the same price or a little less, but you're not having to do all those maintenance items. Like, the guts of the home are strong. That's stuff you absolutely want to be looking at. And what we know is that there's data out there that over 70% of buyers are okay doing projects, but they like doing like the painting and like, I'm going to refresh the kitchen and that sort of stuff. Putting on a roof is like the worst money you're going to spend, because it looks exactly the same. Well, maybe it doesn't look exactly the same, but it doesn't look that much different unless you're doing something pretty dramatic.
No, and that's what I tell everybody is, like, you want to look at the things that buyers walk into houses and they walk around and they say, is the couch going to fit here? What does the kitchen look like? Things that do I like the carpets? Like, things that can all be changed. Exactly what you said with the roof. Like, if you buy the house and a month or two in, you're spending $20,000 for a roof, $30,000 for a septic system, and you now can't, put in the bathroom or the kitchen that you were planning on because you had to fix your drainage.
Hmm.
It's not fun. And, the joys of home ownership, as we call them, are going to hit no matter what. You don't want to start off on the wrong foot.
I couldn't agree more. And when you have someone guiding you the right way, they can tell you, hey, the roof looks like it might have some wear. This is before the inspection or anything. This is at the tour and your visual inspection you take with your agent. Unfortunately, you asked me how many agents you think are going to fall out of the business in the next year, and NAR is predicting there's going to be 200,000 agents gone. We do have a renewal period coming up next year too, so that usually spikes it up a little bit. Some people just say, "I'm not going to renew. I'm done."
My question.
But if there was 200,000 agents that left, I mean, let me do the math here, and this is why you want to make sure you have the right person that's helping you. And right now, there's 1.4 million members. That's a 14.2% decrease. That is not insignificant. And if your agent's not able to identify that stuff, and we'll see this is when people that have a high termination rate, it's usually because they don't know how to look at a house when they get in there. And there's these issues that could have been identified, and that creates doubt. It actually hurts your business. It might hurt your relationship with your clients. So find someone that can tell you about the inner workings of a house, or at least identify stuff to the naked eye. How important do your clients value that with you? Because I know obviously that's something that you've done a really good job with.
I think honestly, it's one of my main selling points. Some agents try to sell themselves on personality. They live in the area, so on and so forth. You're not buying a house, or you're not going to feel good about buying a house if there's something wrong with it because your agent, got you in at the local coffee shop. And those things are important, don't get me wrong, but I think the most important thing is exactly what you said, having an agent that knows what to spot, understands what you're capable of, because different people are able to take on different things.
Yeah.
I've worked with people that have renovated houses, and so I take them through and I'm like, oh, you can handle this. And then a first-time home buyer that has zero experience, they need to be walked through things differently and talked through things differently and given realistic expectations as to what certain items require in terms of maintenance, in terms of costs. And then beyond that, like, you need an agent that is out there showing you the house, but is also willing to get a little bit dirty. The agent that goes and stands in the kitchen and says, hey, walk around and let me know what you think. They're not going to be super helpful to you versus the one that's, crawling up in the attic and going through the crawl space to see what's there prior to writing an offer, especially in the days of like waiving inspections, or finding out what's there before you go through that whole process and you're out $600-700 on an inspection for something that you could have known already.
It's funny you talk about going and crawling in the crawl space or the attic. There was an agent at a listing of someone we both know, and I don't go in attics. I don't know about you. I'll maybe peek up there.
I was going to say I peek my head up.
Yeah, I'm not physically going into the attic. This agent decided to do that, put his whole foot through the ceiling, lost out on a multiple offer situation, and they just said, I don't care how much he's offering us. We're going with the other buyer. So be careful what you commit to is my point. I always remember this. It's just like a wild thing. So the third data point here is mortgage purchase applications, about the indicators for next year. Now, this to me is the most exciting of the three, because it shows you, for all the stories out there, that it's becoming a buyer's market and there's no demand. And again, you've got to look local. We're going to focus on the greater Philadelphia area. We're seeing the highest mortgage purchase application index that we've seen since, basically, it looks like the month of July. We're at 181.6 right now. And there's been 17 weeks of double-digit growth year over year in this statistic, which basically tells you there's a lot of demand out there. And what I see right now is that there's all these people that have kind of delayed life, and we're going to see a lot of demand on the buy side. And if inventory picks up like we expect it to, it could be a very busy spring market for home buyers and sellers, and there could be it's going to be fast paced. That's at least my observation. We've talked about this one-on-one. What do you see there? What does this data tell you?
Well, the data tells me that it is going to most likely be an exciting 2026, especially in the spring market for us. Or, if you're a seller and you're ready to get rid of the house, you're going to have some demand there for it. I don't have numbers to put towards it, but every single day I'm out there, talking to buyers and sellers that I've met with in the past. And like you said, for whatever reason, life got in the way. We put things on hold. Some were trying to time the market. Some just had life happen to them. There are a lot of people that are coming back and very serious about being ready to go, whether it's the spring or the early summer. So I think the first half of the year is going to be surprising to some people, and I don't know if they're going to be ready for it.
I agree with that in a lot of ways. And I think that's all the more reason you're a buyer right now. You want to get your financial ducks in a row.
100%.
Make sure there's nothing like screwy on your credit report. You got all your cash saved up and ready to go. The gift money's documented. These are all the things that hold things up. And as a seller, the hardest part of selling a home is prepping it for the market. This is very underestimated, and people don't spend enough time on that.
I think people have a skewed timeline.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But how much it's going to take, because what they look at is, I'll meet with the seller and we'll go through the house and give them some, have our home prep team come in and give them some pointers, and, it's declutter, do a little bit out front, maybe some paint if you want to get into that. It's the other process of when they start opening up the drawers and the closets and all the memories and boxing that up. People don't realize the amount of time that gets sucked up because of the emotional process that it is. And it's not so much the decluttering or the painting that can get taken care of in a week by a third-party professional. It's the whole rest of the process that, you think you're going to get it done in 2 weeks, and all of a sudden I'm calling them over the course of 2 months and they're still not ready.
Well, you think about it too, a lot of people that are in that position, they've been in their homes a long time. They've had kids there. The kids never come back and get their stuff. Like
No.
rarely does that happen. I did this to my own parents, by the
Yeah.
way. So I said, I got what I wanted years ago when I got married, and take the rest, get rid of it, whatever you want to do. But like going through family photos, and like finding stuff that you made when you were 7 years old that your mom framed, or
Yep.
God forbid there's a death in the family and you're finding like one of the parents, like you're going through their wardrobe. Like this stuff is gut wrenching for a lot of folks. And that's, to me, the biggest logjam in the market right now is the boomers that have held on and they're trying to decide if they want to downsize or not. And that's also the homes everyone wants to buy.
Mm-hmm.
The 4-bedroom single, if we're going to put a label on it.
Yep.
So you've got a great point there. So buyers, get your finances in order. Sellers, like, just start. This is a great time of year to do that, by the way, because you're like pulling stuff out of the attic for the holiday decorations. Well, pull some stuff out of the house. Do it all at once, because you're going to be working on the house all in one day.
100%. That's my tagline to sellers. I'm like, listen, you're going to be moving anyway. If it's already apart, either figure out if it's staying, if it's going, and just start the process early, because it's going to take a lot longer than you think it's going to.
Well said. So I think that's what I'd be thinking about. You look at some of this other data here. The other number that's exciting, now national inventory and local inventory are very different. Nationally, I'm about to see an X here in this graph for single family home inventory. Nationally, it's up 15.68% year over year. Locally, we're seeing about 10, 11%, depending on what county you're looking at. We are very close to hitting 2019 levels. Mm-hmm. That is a big deal, because we know what happened in 2020. Inventory dropped off. Homes were selling very quickly in 20 and 21. Well, now that we're seeing that happen, I think it gives everyone a little more time to make decisions. The best homes still sell quickly. Other homes take a little longer if you make a mistake on the price or you don't prep it like you're talking about. So you got to get that professional advice there. This is something that gets me excited, because it gives people the opportunity to negotiate. And it also, you don't need an order taker anymore. You need a competent agent to help navigate that when inventory is rising and things are happening. So, what advice do you have for people when they're interviewing agents, especially on the listing side, knowing that inventory is rising nationally and it's rising locally?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it depends which side you're on, first of all.
Yeah, correct.
Because you have to attack it from different ways. With the listing side, you need to make sure that whoever it is aware of the data of what's going on, not just, especially in our area, the school district is a big thing, but also the individual townships are starting to take on like their own persona in terms of listing homes. So that would be one thing. And then the other thing would be to find out what your financial goals are and figure out how to market the home in terms of price, location, styling the home, so that you can make the most amount of money out of this in a competitive market. Also, kind of going along with, the buyer, a great agent's going to show the buyer all the things that are going to pop up in an inspection report. you should be doing that for your seller
Hmm.
and letting them know, like, hey, this isn't something that you necessarily need to go out and fix, but we need to mentally prepare that this could become an
Yep.
issue if inspections come up. So that way you're being open and honest with them. And the end number that they're walking away with is going to be very similar to what you spoke about. And then beyond that, that there's a timeline to follow in terms of how to make adjustments if one needs to be made.
I mean, that's great advice. And most people, they end up just talking to one agent and hiring them. I would encourage everyone to talk to like two or three people. I
For
mean,
sure.
I'm a big believer in that. I mean, you and I are going to be the right agent for everybody. I'm clear we can help people in a great way, but you got to make sure it clicks. There's so many variables there. And I think the mistake that you see, the people that don't hire someone that's competent, they just hired the first person they talked to and they didn't get any perspective, because it's obvious what would have happened if they would have talked to some other folks. One last thing I want to hit on here before we take a break and talk about some of the local news around these Michelin star awards that were given out. So we saw, according to some Zillow data, this came out yesterday. Zillow reports that the typical October listing saw a record tying $25,000 median cumulative price cut, with individual cuts around $10,000 and 26.9% of listings trimming prices. And this is interesting because a lot of people think it means the market's cooling down. I would argue that it's recalibrating because we saw affordability improving to a 3-year high, buyer activity being stronger than anything seen since 2022, and it's a rare combination that's leading us to what we just talked about. And when you go to the greater Philadelphia area, and Zillow does a nice job with letting you go local on their research, because these national numbers don't mean a whole lot. So we're seeing the median price cut was $20,100, or the cumulative price cut. So we saw that was the median that home sellers were bringing to the market. Knowing our average sale prices, let's call it around 450. I mean, you're around like 4%, 5% there. And then the median single amount was around 10,000 as well. So what does this tell you about the market right now and maybe even early January? Because we know a lot of folks are going to wait until the spring. I'm not saying that's the right move. It's a trend that happened. We've actually seen the data. This looks like there might be opportunity for some buyers out there. And if you get kind of an early jump on this, you might be able to get the home that you want at a little better price.
Totally. This is where, again, whether you're on the buy side or the sell side,
Mhm.
it's really important when you're interviewing agents to find out exactly how in tune they are with the data, particularly in this case, price trends, right?
Mhm.
And so if you're advising somebody that's getting ready to list their house for sale, you have to look at this and then translate this into the human side of it, and recognize the fact that, hey, regardless of what the data says, regardless of what I want to happen, you as a seller want to happen, buyers are now out there with the mindset that they are going to get either list price or a little bit below list price. So in pricing your home, we can't overprice your home, but we also can't do what a lot of agents were doing with like the marketing pricing, if you want to call it
Yeah,
that, where
yeah.
they were underpricing it, trying to get multiple offers. That's not the mindset of the general public and the consumer right now. So it's super important to understand what the up-to-date local data is and pricing your home at exactly where it needs to be put on the market and what you want to make out of it. But then the other part of this is on the buy side and advising buyers as to how to get a great deal on a great home. Now, on a local level, at least, if the house is in great condition, it's that 4-bedroom, single colonial that's in a popular school district. That house is probably still going to sell very quickly because
Mhm.
it's in such high demand. If you're willing to go outside that a little bit, or if it's a situation where maybe the house hits, 2 out of 3, but it needs a little bit of work,
Sure.
what we are seeing is that if you follow the data, those houses are sitting on the market for a little bit longer, on average about 3 weeks. And so if you can time that out and put in a competitive offer that's slightly above where they're going to cut the price, but significantly below where it's currently listed at, you're going to be able to get the offer accepted, because the seller would rather take a great offer that they have in front of them than drop it again and then, give a hope and a prayer that the next person's going to come in and not offer lower than that dropped
Mhm.
price. And then also as a buyer, that's one way that identifying those houses on the market, I've been able to get so many inspections with them. And so you're going to get a great price and a fair price. The seller is still getting what they want. And you're going to have the peace of mind knowing that you're going to get inspections and either things are going to be repaired, replaced, or you at least know that what you're purchasing is in great condition.
So, that to me is now it's got to be the right house. And I think that's
Totally.
kind of, but that the people that just throw out the month of December, it's a big missed opportunity because there's homes out there. Any seller that's on the market right now, I mean, they are looking to sell. Yeah, they want to sell the home. Like they are ready to make a deal. So if you see a property like that, and maybe it's been sitting on the market, I just had this conversation today with someone. I worked with him. I must have been like 2009 or something like that, and he's helping his buddy out. And I said, this home's been on the market 68 days. This is an opportunity right now. And if you're just totally discounting the month of December, you're probably doing yourself a disservice as a home shopper right now, because there's these windows of time where it might be a little easy. I don't think it's ever easy putting a deal together. No. It's going to be easier putting a deal together, and there might be less competition for you because of that mindset. So, and this data just proves it. I mean, it's one thing to say this stuff, and you hear these like tired things agents say, like, oh, you want to list your home during the holidays because it looks better decorated for Christmas, or anyone putting their jacket on is a very serious buyer. There's data here that shows there's a window in time right now for home shoppers. I would say up until at least like the first week in January. And then you're going to start to see more activity pop up because it's a goal for people in the new year to buy a home in a lot of cases. Like that's a mental thing.
Absolutely.
So a lot of data to talk about here. We covered it all. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about the Michelin stars that have come to Philadelphia. And there's a number of them here, not just the stars themselves, but the Bib Gourmand Award, which is for basically like good eats. And it doesn't have to be fine dining. I've dined at many more of those places than the Michelin star places, but we'll unpack that next, what it means for the local market on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. He's Adam Lavin. You can follow him on Instagram at Moving to the Main Line, just like it's spelled on Instagram, a guy you definitely want to connect with. We're going to be talking about the Michelin star winners, the honorable mention, the Bib Gourmand, all sorts of stuff here. And Adam and I both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. So if you get some value out of this, you like what you hear, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to talk about real estate around some of these Michelin star winners, you can schedule a call with Adam with the link in the comments. So I guess my first question before we get in, have you ever dined at a Michelin star restaurant?
I have. I dined at Per Se in New York City
a
couple of years ago. It was the craziest experience I've ever had in my life in terms of
tell us about it. Yeah.
In terms of it. So the guy that owns it and started it, he also did the French Laundry. His name's Thomas Keller.
Mm-hmm.
He, first of all, you walk in the restaurant and like they know your name, they know who you are, they know why you're there. There's not a single thing that isn't given some level of attention to detail. And then beyond that, you're in this high-end dining experience and it should feel stuffy, but it's not. It's super laid back. It's very comfortable, but also very intimate. And they take, I don't even remember everything that I ate, but they take food and they take little individual portions of it and use totally different ingredients and use, molecular gastronomy to change how it's made and what it's supposed to feel like in your mouth. And so you have like this whole experience where I think I ate some kind of oyster and it was like freeze dried and popped in my mouth. And it's a wild experience because you go, it's not just a meal, it's an actual experience. And I think that's mostly what you're paying for. And why it's so difficult to get in. But if you took the Disneyland of restaurants, that's what these are.
Very cool. So I'm trying to remember the name. This was like years ago. It was up in New York as well. And it was wild. It was the only time I'd ever dined at one. So I'm kind of with it. It was just a different experience there. So these are obviously high-end places. And I mean, I've been to some pretty incredible restaurants and it's like an experience, not just you're eating the food. And I think that's the big difference.
Yeah.
So with that, here were the award winners, and I haven't been to any of these in Philadelphia, which I was a little bummed out about, I guess. So there was 3 restaurants that got 1 star. That was the highest. The first was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's Chef Chad Williams and his wife Hannah, and they took it over in 2016. So I remember this place from when I lived in the city, but it wasn't like this high end place before. It was so.
I was going to say I actually dined at this one a few years ago. And this is one of the interesting thing about the Michelin star restaurants is like for the individual restaurants, it's really a journey to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like going to the Super Bowl, and every year you have to look at what you missed the year before, bring on new staff, bring on new pieces, change the menu, change the dining experience, and sort of build to it. So I haven't been there recently, but it's interesting that they took what they started with and got to this level.
Yeah, I thought so as well. That was probably the most fascinating thing to me about this whole thing. And they have this like balanced menu. So they're located. Let me get the address here. They're right at Locust and between Locust and Spruce on what is this? Like 21st Street. So very close to Rittenhouse Square. The fact that they were able to turn that around, I thought was pretty cool. And I mean, it's husband and wife. That's like the dream story. Like, I mean, although I would have a hard time working with my wife.
I was going to say it depends what type of drink you're looking for.
Well, so you've been in the restaurant industry. I mean,
I
what's the stress like for that? Because I mean, being married stressful, and you got that going on. I mean, what is it like for these people? Because it's every time I watch these like cooking shows, and I've talked to some high end chefs. I mean, it's a stressful job.
It is that once you get into that level, it's a whole different level of stress. With the normal restaurant, if you want to call it that, even the higher end ones that are on the main line, like, Rosalie and all those over there, most of their business is predicated on volume. So they can, they mess up on your dinner, I'm coming right behind you. These restaurants, they only have usually like 40 seats, and they have to knock it out of the park on every single one for their reputation, but B, so that they can walk away making money out of this thing. And so I can't even fathom that level of stress. But then the other portion of it is like that life, and you and I kind of live it a little bit.
Sure.
There's no nights or weekends off. There's no holidays off. Those are the days that are the busiest for them. And so that level of stress comes along with it as well, where it's like when everybody else is living their life and having fun, that's the craziest time for you. I mean, we experience it to a point, but nothing like these guys.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because like I just think of like a Saturday night. Like usually we're probably shut down by like not all the time, but like 7 o'clock on a Saturday you can relax a little bit. Sunday afternoon you can relax a little bit. That's not the case for these. So I think that was I'm glad to see there was one right by Rittenhouse Square, and the fact that they were able to resurrect the place is pretty cool. The second one is Her Place Supper Club. So this was interesting because when I read through this, it was Chef Amanda Schulman. Now she said that everyone gets their own table, but everyone's served at the same time after each dish is explained to the room, and the menu changes every 2 weeks, which that's a whole nother stress level because it's like constant. I've been to places where they change the menu while you're there, and which is even more mind blowing to me. But the communal feel to that, like, I mean, and I don't know if that's going to be for everybody. And it's like French and Italian accents. So Her Place is located, just to give everyone an idea. It's right by the Barnes and Noble on just north of Rittenhouse Square on between 18th and 17th on Sampson. So that's pretty wild. How do you feel about the communal dining experience?
I mean, I think in this scenario, I'd be all for it because it's, like normally I'm not that type of guy. Normally, if I go out, I want to, be away, be as private and intimate as possible. However, I think the game changes when you're going to these types of restaurants. And it's sort of like you just turn your experience over to them and let them do what they're good at, and you may enjoy it at the end, you may not, but you can at least appreciate the craft that goes into it. And so I think in this scenario, I wouldn't necessarily have an opinion towards it. I'd say let's try it out and let's see what you got.
I tend to agree with you there. I would do that as well. And then the third star winner was Providence. It's on South 2nd Street. right just south of Pine. So another great location here. This was Chef Nicholas Bezique. I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I'm sorry. And this was in a historic row home. They have this, and they have like an open sort of kitchen, Korean and French influences. This was interesting. Think Japanese tuna with whipped tofu and chili oil and like brown butter holiday sauce. So I was like, wow, this sounds actually pretty interesting. Like, these guys know what they're doing. I mean, they got the star. So, and I kind of like when you go into those places where it's like these older buildings that they just turn into a restaurant. I mean, Veterans a lot like that. I think it makes you feel a little different. I mean, all these sound amazing. I mean, congrats to all these chefs here. I think the bigger debate, Adam, is going to be the Bib Gourmand Award. So the Bib Gourmand Award, that's basically what they call it. The star is high quality cooking. No one got 2 or 3 stars, which is excellent or exceptional. The key traits are skill, consistency, and identity. The Bib Gourmand is great food and great value. It's kind of like Good Eats, I think, is the way to call it. And there was a bunch of winners here. 4th Street Deli. I've been there many times. Incredible spot. I mean, that's they have one in the Reading Terminal. They've obviously got the one on 4th Street. Angelo's. We were talking about Angelo's. How hard is it to get pizza at Angelo's? Thanks to Dave. I blame Dave Portnoy, by the way, because he really blew it up.
Yeah, well, it was hard to get.
It was hard before, and now it's
then
insane.
he just I mean, used to have a hard time on a Sunday afternoon getting it, and now it's like I said to you, on a Wednesday afternoon at 5 o'clock, I'm still waiting in a line there for a pie. So it's pretty wild.
I mean, the cheesesteak apparently is the better item there. That's what everyone tells me. I haven't had it. I actually tried to go there with my son, and the line was too long. We were going to a Sixers game. We couldn't wait. So.
Well, the thing that sets them apart is they make their own bread. So if you follow them on Instagram, every single morning that guy's up, maybe not him every single time, but they're up making bread. Like, it's wild. So it's not your Geno's, Pat's, Jim's are all there, but they're pulling rolls out of the bags that they get dropped.
They're going to Amoroso's, right?
Yeah. The fact that you're eating bread that was baked out there, the feeling and the texture and the flavor is just out of this world. So it makes it, worth waiting 30, 40 minutes.
I would do it. It was just the situation wasn't ideal. I mean, I think you got to make a day of it. And the 4th Street Deli, I love that this place got some love because, I mean, I'm a sucker for the Jewish deli, like, brisket, smoked salmon, lox, like you name it. And I mean, I don't think there's anywhere that does it any better than them. And there's some really good ones, even just along the main line. But I mean, that's probably the best one easily. And everyone knows that. It's kind of like Katz is up in New York. It's got that same kind of reputation. Yeah. So very cool there. Then there was some other places that were on here. So D'Alessandro's, I've been there many times. My wife's from Roxborough. I would say this is a controversial pick for a lot of people. Some people will say Chubby's is better across the street, which I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, were you surprised to see D'Alessandro's on there? Because I mean, that's it's a great spot, but
I think there's probably more debate within the residents of Philadelphia.
For sure.
When it's from an outside perspective, I think that name gets thrown around a lot. Almost, I mean, if you look at the history of the city, the name's probably has more of a mainstay than Angelo's. It's just Angelo's jumped up in quality and reputation. Thanks, Dave. And so I think that's kind of what's driving it. Is if you look at a staple of what Philadelphia is, that the name kind of sticks.
Well, and look, the food's great there. Don't get me wrong. There's Del Rossi's on North 4th Street in Northern Liberties. This is another spot I've been to where they have like the crispy pizza, the cheesesteak there is really good. I mean, there's so many good spots for this kind of food around the city. It's nice to see and they have like the Brooklyn style grandma pie there. That pizza is not going to be for everybody, by the way, but and they also put Cooper Sharp on cheesesteaks. I've noticed that's been the more popular cheese of late when it comes to cheesesteaks. Is that something you're seeing as well?
Yeah, I love Cooper Sharp, man.
I agree with you.
I love Cooper Sharp. Well, it depends on what time of night it is, I guess. If you're having one of those rough nights, sometimes Cheese Whiz is just it. But Cooper Sharp it's just like perfect.
So we had the owner of Johnny's Pizza on the show here, and they do the same thing in Bryn Mawr. So I'm a big believer in that. I think it's way better. Then we've got a couple other spots here. So Dizengoff is an Israeli cuisine. I have never been here. This is at 1625 Sampson. It's the sibling to Zahav and Laser Wolf. So I'm just going to take their word for it. You ever been to this place?
I haven't, but if it's connected to Zavad, it's probably good.
That's kind of my take on it. I mean, the place looks really fun. The hummus looks unbelievable. I mean, the pictures are. I'm going to go home and probably want to make some dinner after this. So that's another one. El Chingan, which is on South 10th in Bella Vista. Another great spot. Now that's obviously Mexican cuisine. Mexican cuisine is so underrated to me. I think it gets people don't think they can elevate it a lot. So I'm glad to see a Mexican restaurant on here because I love Mexican food.
I agree.
What else do we got? We got a couple more here. Fiorella. You ever been to Fiorella?
I have not.
So that's at 8th and Christian. Another great spot. I know Sarah's been there, the maternity leave co-host, and it's a Vetri. It's like another Vetri restaurant. So that was, but it's a little. It's not like Vetri. It's a little different. Where it's just kind of some not. I don't want to say basic, but classic Italian stuff. And then you got Pizzeria Badia. That's at 1313 North Lee, and that's more like Kensington. So
yeah, now that is an interesting place. I don't know if you've ever been there.
I have not.
So their pizza got ranked like number 1 or 2 in the country at one point, like 2 years ago. Not according to Philadelphians, but according to a national. I forget who it was, but either way, they have that. But then the other cool thing is they actually have thing there where you can purchase like a chef's table. You got to bring like 8 people, I think, and it's a hoagie tasting menu, which sounds weird.
I've heard about this now that you mention this.
It's the coolest experience. Like if people are like always looking like places to go to brunch, if you want like a unique way to spend an afternoon, it's an awesome place. We went with a couple friends a few years ago, 2 years ago. They have like, craft beers, craft wines that you're not going to get in the grocery store. It's not overly expensive, but it's just a wild, cool, interesting, unique experience that you're not going to find anywhere else.
Sign me up for a hoagie tasting.
Right?
I do that.
That's how
I love hoagies.
That's how I got sold on it. They're like, "You want to go out on Saturday?" I was like, They're like, "We're doing a hoagie tasting. Let's go."
Yeah, I would have immediately said yes. Great call on your part. That's it's funny. One of my kids' little league coaches, shout out to Scott Main. I know he listens to our stuff occasionally, and he told me he was actually going there that night, but he just said he was going to a hoagie tasting at some fancy place, and I didn't know the name, but it was obviously it. I don't think there's many of those.
Probably not.
We got a couple more here. So they have Royal Sushi and Izakaya. I've been here before. This is an incredible spot. It's on South 2nd. I mean, it's one of the best, sort of, Japanese sushi places you're ever going to go. And it's very creative. I mean, not just like a bunch of different rolls and stuff like that. They had like fried chicken there. They had all sorts of stuff, Japanese fish. You ever been to this one?
I have. Same as you. I think it, they take the menu and they stretch it a little bit and make it unique. But what they do, like, I think the biggest thing with sushi restaurants is how fresh are the ingredients.
I agree.
And you could taste every single one in there. And so that's kind of
awesome.
how I judge them. And I had no complaints.
Very cool. And I love seeing it's a different cuisine. I mean, people think Philadelphia's all about like cheesesteaks and pizza, but there's a lot more to the food scene here. And then the last one, ironically, is a pizza place. It's Sally, which is on 22nd and Spruce. So I've never been here, but this, from what I hear, it's pretty incredible. And they have like natural wine, small plates. It's not just pizza, but they have like meatballs and that sort of stuff. So more of like a high end Italian restaurant, because there's some good pizza, like a brick oven place, if you will. So congrats to all the winners here. I mean, Philadelphia has such an underrated food scene. I don't know. I mean, you've obviously worked in the industry. I feel like it always gets like it's like the second city to New York. Obviously, we're very deep. We're kind of in between New York and DC, but there's some incredible spots here. I didn't know about many of these, especially the Michelin star winners. But there's so many great restaurants that weren't even on the list.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the best thing is how much it's changed really over the last 10 years and that it's moving in a positive direction. Mm-hmm. Exactly what you said. If you wanted to go to a really high-end restaurant, you had to go to either New York City, Chicago, kind of DC. And that really has changed. Like, I know Steven Starr invested in Philadelphia about 10, 15 years ago. And I feel like that's what brought the more contemporary restaurant to Philadelphia, or the mindset. Granted, his restaurants aren't at the level of Michelin star, but that bringing that dining experience to the city is what opened the gateways for some of these other restaurants. And now as they come, that's just going to make it a mainstay in a place where other restaurants can come. and they're going to want to come and invest their money here. And like you said, a lot of these restaurants are going in older row homes, older buildings, unique buildings, historic buildings that we need to see brought back to life to keep, the city as unique as it is. And so I think it's a really great thing that we're seeing now, and it should show a great trend going, forward into the future.
Well, running a restaurant is also, we talk about high failure rate in our business a lot. It's comparable. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are. I think it's actually realtors fail more than restaurants, but you're at an 87% rate. It's very difficult. When you think about the cities you just mentioned, and just like rent, right? Like leasing space, like it's much more affordable to open a restaurant here, just from a real estate perspective, than it would be in some of these other cities. And I think, and now you're starting to see even one of our favorite places to go is Lark, which is like right around the corner from me. Like that's not even in the city. You've got, Vetri has a restaurant in Bryn Mawr. I mean, they're starting to expand a little bit, because I think that the suburban diners, they tend to, I mean, and there's not a lot of places to go around here. Now you're starting to see some chefs come out there, which that's been a big change just the past 10 years as well, that people are actually bringing their concepts out here. And maybe it's not as nice as the place in the city, but if you want to go 10 minutes away, there's a really quality place to go to.
Totally.
You rolled your eyes at the how hard it is to
run a restaurant, because all I could think about is you would die if you ever saw the business plan of a restaurant, especially these higher end restaurants. The reason why they need either a really big investor or multiple investors is because the first 5 years of a restaurant, pretty much the first 2 or 3 years are running in the red, which if that was us, we'd be out of business. Right. And so that's why the first 2 or 3 years, and that's why these restaurants are building, and their goal is to get these stars and to build up their reputation, is because they hope and pray that by years 4 and 5, they have enough reputation and enough cash flow coming in where they can start turning the business around. But I've been a part of some of these. The business plan for the first couple of years is just, hey, listen, we're not making any money, and you literally have to rob Peter to pay Paul. So on top of the stress level that we talked about earlier of, hey, we just need to get food out to people and make sure they're happy. Imagine being a husband and wife, you have to be married. Got to deal with the relationship part of it. You're in the shift making sure that the people are happy. And then on the back end, in the back of your mind, you have to think, hey, I have to be successful at this for at least the next 3 years so that I can make it out of this alive.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to see any business succeed, because I think any business is hard. I mean, even a retail store. But I mean, the fact that you get this kind of recognition for a lot of these places like D'Alessandro's, it's been around for a while. That's only going to help them. That's a great thing. So and I also think I like Michelin's going to some other cities, because forever it was just the couple. They went to Boston recently. I mean, there's some great establishments not in New York or DC, LA or Chicago, and it's only going to help the people there. So that's a great thing locally and nationally. So good stuff. We got 2 new listings coming to the market, Adam. Tell me what you think of these. 555 Summit House. So my dad sold Summit House originally in the 1970s, believe it or not. $275 for a 2-bedroom in Westchester, 1 half and 1 full bath. It's also got a den on the first floor. The place is in great shape. All new carpeting. It's got in-unit laundry. The kitchen's been updated. And again, it's got that den on the first floor plus 2 bedrooms, which is not normal for a lot of these. If you want to schedule a tour of this property, there's no open houses scheduled right now, but you can schedule a private tour with Adam. Showing start on Friday. What do you think? I mean, that looks like a pretty good value in there.
Well, for sure. And the great thing about Summit House is it's in a great location. So especially if you're a first-time home buyer, business professional, and you're just looking to get your feet wet in the real estate market, and you need to make sure that, your drive to work isn't going to be horrible. You have access to just about every major highway, but you're also tucked away where, you're not in the chaos. So it's a really great location.
They also have a pool in the community, which I think is very underrated. I mean, it's if you're not looking to do a lot of work, that's the right spot for you. The other listing we got coming to the market is a triplex in Chester. This is 2,920 square feet. It's got a 2-bedroom rented at $1,400 a month, a 4-bedroom rented at $2,300 a month, and another 2-bedroom that's projected to be around $1,300 a month that's currently vacant. That's being offered at $350,000. I mean, that looks like a pretty good return from what I can tell. I mean, those are some high rents.
It looks like a pretty good return. And for anybody that's looking to get into a multi-unit or move up into that type of investing, it's the perfect opportunity.
Well, you're not that far from Widener too, which gives you a little bit of a good renter base there. So you want to, these are all by appointment. So you want to see either one of these. Click on the link. Adam can get you in. That's all we got for this week. You want to follow Adam. He's at Moving to the Main Line on Instagram. He's got tons of great content and knowledge that he's putting out. You can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD, and we'll be back next week on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.